Jacqueline, introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Aramboles. I have been working at WM helping advance our sustainability strategy, which is always working for a sustainable tomorrow. My career has always been in sales and marketing, and most recently, for the last year and a half, I've been helping lead that marketing team specific for sustainability. And it's a pleasure to be here today. My biggest cheerleaders right here.
Mo?
Hello again. Thank you for having me. My name is Mohammed Hachem. I go by Mo. I'm from Sneaker Impact. I've spent my life in the footwear textile industry. My family has started this in 1967. And 3 years ago, we started looking more into dissecting footwear into 6 millimeter polymers, and we also were one of the very first companies in the States that bought the textile recycling separation machine that's able to separate different textiles based on the compositions. Thank you.
Okay, let's get started. So tell me, what does circular fashion mean to you? And I ask that question because it means so many different things to many different people.
Sure. So when I think of circularity in fashion, it's really thinking about how do you get that piece of apparel and turn it back exactly into another piece of apparel, right? That's that full circular journey. And for the company I work for, right, at WM, we have certain technology and processes to allow to provide that fiber-to-fiber recycling. But so much education needs to take place because about 80%, 85% of textiles end up in a landfill. So when you really think about that, right, we're used to putting textiles of any kind, apparel, any type of clothing, into our trash bin, even our recycling bin, because a lot of people feel, hey, that could be recyclable, but that's not part of a typical recycling program. Textile is managed completely different. So circularity really is that innovation of how do we make sure that at the end of that product's life, for you as a consumer, you are educated well enough to understand where exactly does that material need to go so that we can bring it right back into the fashion industry. Fiber-to-fiber recycling, right? So again, just to keep it simple on textile, that's what I feel circularity really means in the textile and fashion industry.
Jack, totally agree, Jackie. So I think my perspective on circularity, I think, the numbers between 85 and 87% of the consumers don't recycle, not because they don't want to. The other statistics, 92% of the public want to be part of the sustainability movement. So it's all about bringing awareness and spreading the message. I think regular individuals want to be involved, but small governments have to be, it's all about bringing awareness and spreading the message. Accountability also has to take place, meaning accountability for what's good and what's bad. The reuse market, it's huge and it's only growing locally and overseas. But also we have to look at the end of life. What's happening to the end of life? Technology is here. The near-infrared technology is here that's able to separate. 100% cotton could turn fiber to fiber. 95% polyester or more could be polyester, fiber to fiber. So we want accountability for brands, just like what's happening in California, the EPR bill. They just passed that bill right now. By January 1st, 2025, brands have to find a solution by repurposing, by upcycling, by reusing each and every piece of clothes or accessories. And Sneaker Impact, we've lobbied to include footwear into that bill. So I'm glad that there's a bill right now mandating brands to take action. So it's an open topic, but I believe that it's all about bringing awareness and spreading the message because the individuals want to be involved, but the awareness is not there. So.
Let's go into economics for a minute. So in economics, it's about supply and demand, right? right now, I would say for past century, it's been linear. So the consumers have been demanding linear fashion. A lot of couture designers went into ready-to-wear to do mass production. Now it's changing. How is that changing? How is the economics and how is economics affecting circular fashion, and how is circular fashion affecting economics in the fashion industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you think about the way we consume products, it's very linear, right? You buy, you use, and then you dispose of it. Same for fashion, and same in the industry. I think where that line starts to become circular is, think about like a three-legged stool. I always like to bring up this example. For example, in our industry, the first leg of that stool is we have to be able to collect the material, right? So we need the ability to collect any textile, any type of apparel, any material, we should collect it. That second leg is we need to process it. So we need to have the infrastructure, we need to have the process in place to process that material. And then the third, which you alluded to, there has to be a demand for the product. You can collect, you can process, but if there's no demand, you're not going to become a storage facility, right? So I think what's changing, and it's allowing for now this line to become circular, is the fact that as consumers, we are demanding more products from recycled content, right? Industries now are taking a lot of pride in being able to provide products that have, recycled content in it. Why? Because the product is out there. So instead of putting that in a landfill, how do we find ways to repurpose, right? To recycle them, to make sure they go back into the industry, into that circular economy. So I think a couple of things have changed that linear process, right, to circular. It's the demand that we have, as consumers, have really put in the marketplace, and then really the investment from companies to develop the infrastructure necessary to create the process, to allow for that recyclability of materials. So, I speak for that also, again, at WM, is rethinking recycling. A lot of people know recycling as your plastics, glass, paper, cardboard, right? But a lot of things can be recycled, like textiles. So we're also innovating in the recycling of textile industry to make sure that we also incorporate that textile recycling. We have it now, but it's a little bit of a manual process. There's technology available out there, but when you have mixed fibers, 80% polyester, and then you add spandex or whatever other material, that's hard to break down, right, when you're mixing materials. But with the innovation and technology and science, we're trying to partner with, manufacturers of certain pieces of equipment and technology to separate those and be able to say, okay, now we have all poly here, all cotton, and then be able to turn those again into fiber to fiber. So again, I think it's, the consumer demand and then the investment, right, from industries to want to bring that into circularity.
I'd like to add, if you allow me, Jacqueline. So there's a term in the corporate world, it's called product integrity, right? So there's this purse and my wife has tons of those purses. They're worth tons of money, or these shoes that are worth tons of money. Brands, they incinerate or grind those shoes instead of, even though 75% of the world population depend on the second-hand apparel and footwear. We go back to accountability. I mean, if each and every pair or each and every garment is accounted for, just like my friend Mertu came by to the warehouse and did her own inspection, each and every piece is accounted for. So after college, I went to Michigan, to Fair State in Michigan. After college, my internship was boots on the ground in Ghana, Cotonou, Burkina Faso, Senegal. I've lived in West Africa for 3 years, and I've seen the impact the apparel and the footwear could make on people's life, from creating jobs to creating micro-business opportunities. Now, we really have to have an open dialogue, just like what happened in California with the EPR bill. It's called the Textile Recovery Act. And so now, we should have a roadmap for brand. Look, Western Europe is going to be blacklisted. It's fine. The stuff is not going to end up there. And Canada product is not going to end up there. But in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Zimbabwe, in Ouagadougou, in Ivory Coast, Senegal. So there's a huge demand for this product, and there's no distributors on those margins. So that dialogue has to happen, and incinerating, and there's, as of January 1st, incineration is out of the, and the waste innovation. I was using waste innovation myself, and we'll talk about the latest technology we're coming up with in the separation. It sounded good, and I'm currently using it until we perfect our system, which is creating energy from waste. Sounds good, but there's better solutions out there. And brands should be okay to let their product use either at really discounted prices or give them for a fraction of the price in different market instead of the incinerating and destruction.
Okay, let's talk about the Responsibility Textile Act that's coming up in California. Now, I'm into accounting, so when Sarbanes-Oxley came into play in 2002, it made a lot of corporations spend a lot of money, millions of dollars, just to comply. So anytime there's new legislation, there's going to be a lot of cost involved. So let's talk about, how do you see a lot of designers being impacted by new law in regards to circular fashion?
So for the young leaders here, okay, 100% cotton is 100% recyclable, right? Fiber to fiber. 95% polyester or more, it will be treated fiber to fiber. The rest of the stuff, they use it as shoddy, which is insulation. So for the young leader, let's try to make the future as of right now. Meaning, when you're producing a pair of jeans, instead of putting 98% cotton and 2% spandex, let's do it 100% cotton, because this is what true sustainable circular economy, being socially responsible. It might be like most of the jeans, I had the auto sort from Tamra, and so this auto sort could do 4 tons per hour separation, right? And we were looking for the cotton, very minimal. And this machine, we had the prototype, but this one would do like maybe 0.5 ton per hour, and the big machine would do 4 tons per hour, which is massive amount of apparel. Problem is, there isn't a whole lot of 100% cotton, and there isn't a whole lot of percent of 95 plus polyester. So I think from the young leader to be socially responsible, let's start right now. When you're producing an item, let's make it, with items that we know it could be recyclable in the future. Now, there's a lot of smart companies right now trying to find solution for the mixed product. But as of right now, from what I'm aware of, is 100% cotton and above 95% polyester. And we have Jacqueline. Jacqueline is super smart. Go ahead, she's from WM, and they're doing a whole lot in the textile industry as well.
Yeah, what I would like to add to that, and it's a great point you bring up, is when you think of legislation and how it affects business, local communities, I think we're used to that by now as consumers, and we will pay the price for that. The company's it's not gonna shrink their profit margin. They're gonna pass down to us as consumers. So I think we're seeing that already, right? Sustainable products typically tend to be a little bit higher than kind of like your typical average product. So I think the market has understood that, it's costly, right? But how do we figure out how to work together so that, again, how do we continue to recycle those products and stop using the raw virgin materials or the mining? Because about 40% of a company's or a fashion company's carbon footprint comes from that manufacturing and production. There was a McKinsey research that was thrown out there about 2-3 years ago that explained that. So as a fashion brand, if you can reduce about 40% of your carbon footprint by just working with reusing textiles, that's just a huge impact that you would be able to have on the environment and just your journey in general. So again, it's, I'm not surprised by new legislation. There are certain states that actually have a ban on textiles entering a landfill, which is excellent. But when that happens, the community has to have the right infrastructure so that you as a consumer can say, okay, I understand there's a ban on landfill, but I know my options. I know where I can take materials, I know where I can take products, and then be able to see that journey kind of like come to life. I don't know if that helped answer the question.
And also, I want to add, so with the EPR bill, they just employed 500 people, and people could, I don't know if somebody could correct me here, if it's 400 or 500 individuals in California. And yeah, we're speaking to somebody today in the corporate world at 4:30 from California. We're speaking also Monday or Tuesday because we're coming up with our proprietary technology, meaning dissecting the sneakers and separating foam, EVA, TPU, PU, and rubber into different categories. We have 2 different labs, and that's going to be the first company in the world that we're not only separating heavies and lows, meaning foam and rubber. We're going into the foams. As of Tuesday morning, we were at 90%. And we have to be above 95% to make new product into that stuff. So yeah, there's 500 employees and there's fines as of January. So you're right, there's tons of fines, and brands are looking for true solutions.
Okay. So let's talk about how brands, let's say on a smaller scale, independent and emerging designers, people that's entering the industry, what are ways that they can contribute to being more circular? And I say ways because I don't believe that any one of us could do it at 100% at the moment. There's still going to be a balance. So what are some ways, smaller, larger, that they can contribute?
So I see it almost daily, especially when I was in, specific to sales at WM. We would support new businesses with the typical trash and recycling collection. But I think to answer your question, it's the partnerships. When I would see even the smallest of brands, the smallest of companies, making sure they had a network that supported their strategy, right? I think that's key to really reaching success. And something that I pride myself in is, the company I work for is having that ecosystem in place. Again, a lot of people think of WM as just trash collection or recycling, but there's just a huge network where we connect with brands, large retailers all across the nation, all across North America, to make sure that when it's time for a large retailer to redesign their uniforms, which happens quite a lot, they have a solution to make sure that those uniforms, those T-shirts, whatever it is, don't end up in a landfill. There's been many programs we've implemented to make sure that those uniforms can be transformed into something else. Our WMPO Phoenix Open event that takes place in Phoenix, Arizona, it's the largest green event in the world. It's zero waste. And the way we do that is working closely with small businesses, especially in Phoenix, Arizona. From donations to recycling opportunities to even the turf that needs to be cleaned out after a huge golf tournament, there's local farmers that actually go out and pick up that turf. So I think as small businesses enter any community and they enter into their venture, you have to tap into the local network. You have to tap into other companies that can leverage your resources. You can exchange resources and then figure out, the best way to reach success. So I know for us, it's kind of like bringing that big name picture into a very local specific scale that can support the growth of small businesses.
Look, I want to add also regarding the future leaders, there's Francesca is what there. Hi, Francesca. So with Francesca is a sustainability professor at local. Now she's at Columbia and she was at the Miami Fashion Institute. Hi, Oscar. So what she did, instead of teaching students from a textbook, which is amazing, and doing research, Francesca showed up with 20 students to my warehouse. And we have like 70,000 square foot warehouse. And I said, Francesca, students in a warehouse, it's hot, right? It's hot. We have tons of apparel, and we have purses, and we have footwear. And Francesca said, Mo, these are the future leaders, and I want to have boots on the ground. And it took like a couple minutes to understand. We're not used to having like 18-year-old, 19-year-old fashion students running in our warehouse. And she goes, can we take whatever we want? I said, it's all you. So they took purses and belts and footwear and dresses. And I mean, I said, it's all you. And then she had a competition who made the best upcycling piece. And that, I mean, since then, we've been into multiple universities. I was at Harvard, and she had me at Columbia, and we were at St. Thomas. We're actually doing, if you guys want to see some really, I can't talk about it because I didn't sign an NDA, but they said not. We're doing something with sneakers and swimsuit tomorrow at the runway. So I can't, if you guys ask me more, I'll talk, but I'm not going to mention it. So tomorrow, St. Thomas University, we're doing something with grounded sneakers and on the runway with wearing, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to disclose. So what Francesca did, and Oscar as well, bringing awareness and spreading the message into boots on the ground. And that was a surprise that nobody did. So I think, I know we can learn from our young leaders because now they know this exists. So shout out to Oscar and Francesca for making that happen.
I think we're going to be approaching our last question. And I want to know, in your opinion, where do you see circular fashion? As a matter of fact, where do you see the balance between circular and linear fashion in the next 5 to 10 years? And then after that, you can end with how to find you on Instagram.
Sure. So I like to pivot that slightly into what I see really changing maybe the industry over the next 5 to 10 years. And maybe a lot of you have heard about it already, but digital tags will be mandated in the EU by 2030. And what is a digital tag? A lot of you may have heard of it. Ralph Lauren is one of the companies that is using it already. A digital tag is kind of similar to what our previous speaker was explaining, what they call their digital passport, right? It shows you specifically what the product is made of, where it came from. So think of that history. But imagine that digital tag now giving you a full ecosystem on how to manage that piece. So for you as a consumer, at the end of your usage of that particular product, you would also be able to know where to take that material. Where could it be recycled? And then for companies like us, we would be able to understand also how to recycle that. So if it's a Nike tennis shoe, there will be a footprint on there that explains for WM if we're recycling them or no. They would want to know, this is where I want my tennis shoe to end up once you break down the different components. I want this here, I want that there. So imagine what that would give us. It would give us the education, the resources necessary to be responsible.